The ever-present cough racked Finian's thin frame as he hunched over his cluttered workbench, the gaslight casting long, flickering shadows across the cramped workshop. Rain lashed against the corrugated metal roof, the rhythmic drumming a constant companion in the symphony of groans and hisses that emanated from the bowels of New Albion. Through the grime-coated window, Finian could see the silhouette of Stirling's monstrosity, the iron leviathan, docked across the inky expanse of the sea. It was a constant reminder of the Baron's iron grip on the city, a behemoth fueled by stolen dreams and the sweat of the working class. Tonight, however, Finnian wasn't focused on the oppressive reality outside. His nimble fingers danced across a peculiar contraption, a clockwork bird, its once polished brass now dull and tarnished. It had been nestled amongst a pile of scraps scavenged from the city's refuse heaps, a treasure amidst the usual detritus. But this was no ordinary bird. A faint whirring sound emanated from its intricate gears, and a series of clicks resonated within its metallic belly. With a practiced touch, Finnian pried open a concealed compartment, revealing a minuscule scroll of oiled parchment. Curiosity gnawed at him, a rare sensation that momentarily eclipsed the gnawing hunger in his stomach. Unfurling the scroll with reverence, Finnian was met with a cryptic message, a series of symbols and glyphs that danced before his eyes. It was a coded language, one he recognized from his late father's forbidden tinkering manuals. A thrill shot through him, a coded message meant for a revolutionary with gears in their soul. Finnian, with his patchwork clothes and his clockwork arm, a testament to a childhood accident with a malfunctioning steam press, couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. Perhaps, tonight, his tinkering wouldn't just mend a leaky pipe or a broken toaster. Perhaps, tonight, it held the key to something far grander. He heard a faint knock at the door, a sound that was all too familiar in these parts. It was Evie, the noblewoman-turned-thief, come to collect her share of the day's loot. He exchanged a knowing glance with her as she slipped into the workshop, her crimson cloak flowing dramatically behind her. "Finnian, old boy," she drawled, her voice tinged with amusement. "What have you got for me tonight?" Finnian gestured to the bird, still clutched in his hand. "I found something interesting," he replied, his voice filled with an excitement he hadn't felt in years. "I think it might be a message for someone like us." Evie's eyes widened, a glint of curiosity sparking in them. "A message?" she repeated, her voice low. "From who?" "I don't know," Finnian admitted, "but I think it's important." The two of them exchanged knowing glances, their fates seemingly intertwined by fate. They were the misfits, the outcasts, the ones who saw the world differently. And tonight, it seemed, their paths had converged on something bigger than either of them could have ever imagined. Finnian carefully unfurled the scroll, revealing the intricate code within. His fingers danced over the parchment, deciphering the symbols and glyphs, lost in a world of their own. After several tense moments, he looked up at Evie, his eyes alight with determination. "It's a map," he whispered. "A map to something hidden deep within the city. Something that could change everything." Evie leaned in closer, her crimson cloak swirling around her. "What kind of something?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm not sure," Finnian replied, his brow furrowing. "But I think it's time we found out." Their eyes met, and without another word, they knew they were in this together. They were revolutionaries, and the time for action had come. They would gather their friends, their allies, their fellow misfits, and they would make their mark on the world. They would tear down the iron leviathan, and build something new in its place. They would show the world that even two scavengers, with a clockwork bird and a stolen map, could change the course of history. Their hands clasped together, their fingers intertwined, as they vowed to see this through to the end. No matter the cost. No matter the danger. They were ready to face the future together. Finnian slid the map back into the clockwork bird, its tiny gears and springs clicking into place. He smiled at Evie, his eyes filled with hope. "Let's get started," he said, his voice steady and strong. "The future awaits." And with that, they slipped out into the night, their steps light and purposeful as they set out to uncover the secrets hidden within the city. The wind whistled through the cobblestone streets, carrying with it the whispers of a revolution, of a world on the brink of change. As they disappeared into the shadows, the last thing they saw was the towering silhouette of Sterling's monstrosity, the iron leviathan, its massive smokestacks belching black smoke into the sky. But they knew deep down that their time was coming. Soon they would return, and they would bring the revolution with them. Their story was only just beginning. The cryptic message, once deciphered by Finian's practiced eye, revealed a series of coordinates that snaked through the labyrinthine alleys and forgotten corners of New Albion. It wasn't a straightforward path, but rather a coded route designed to evade prying eyes, likely Sterling's ever-present network of spies and automatons. Evie, ever the pragmatist, scoffed. "These coordinates lead us on a goose chase through the city's underbelly. Are you sure this isn't some elaborate prank by one of your fellow tinkerers, Finnian?" Finnian, however, remained undeterred. His father's manuals, though cryptic, spoke of a hidden cache, a forgotten legacy of a bygone era, guarded by a network of clockwork contraptions and forgotten passages. The message, he was certain, pointed towards this very cache. "There's more to this, Evie," he insisted, his voice laced with a newfound conviction. "This map, it speaks of a power source unlike any we've seen before. Something called Aetherium." Evie's eyebrows shot up. Aetherium was a whispered legend, a substance rumored to possess the power to manipulate gravity itself. Dismissed by most as a bedtime story for children, it held a strange allure for Evie, who had always been fascinated by the fringes of science, forbidden knowledge her aristocratic upbringing had tried so desperately to suppress. "Aetherium, you say?" she echoed, a flicker of excitement dancing in her eyes. "If this map truly leads to such a power source, then Sterling will stop at nothing to get his hands on it. We can't let that happen." Thus began their clandestine journey. Guided by the map and Finian's keen understanding of clockwork mechanics, they navigated the treacherous underbelly of New Albion. They slipped past grimy taverns overflowing with drunken laborers, navigated through bustling marketplaces choked with smog and haggling vendors, and even traversed rickety bridges spanning precarious chasms that plunged deep into the city's industrial underbelly. Each step was fraught with danger. Sterling's automatons, hulking metal constructs with glowing red eyes, patrolled the streets with an unsettling efficiency. Finnian, with his patchwork clothes and his clockwork arm, managed to blend in with the city's throngs of laborers, while Evie, despite her aristocratic lineage, possessed a surprising knack for disappearing into the shadows, her crimson cloak a fleeting wisp in the gloom. One particularly tense encounter involved a network of laser tripwires guarding a seemingly innocuous ventilation shaft. Finnian, with a series of deft maneuvers and a well-placed tinker's tool, managed to dismantle the intricate laser grid, allowing them to squeeze through the narrow passage. Evie kept watch, her hand hovering near a concealed pistol, a weapon she'd grown accustomed to using in her clandestine activities. As they delved deeper into the city's underbelly, the air grew stale and thick with the smell of oil and burning coal. The rhythmic groaning of unseen machinery echoed all around them, a constant reminder of the city's relentless industrial heart. The map led them to a hidden door cleverly disguised as a pile of discarded crates. With a satisfying click, the door swung open, revealing a dimly lit passage that descended into the unknown. Finnian, his clockwork arm glowing faintly in the darkness, took the lead, his expertise with clockwork mechanisms proving invaluable, his tinker's tool at the ready in case they encountered any more tripwires or booby traps. Evie followed closely behind, her pistol drawn and ready. The passage wound its way through a network of forgotten tunnels, their walls adorned with dusty paintings and faded hieroglyphics that hinted at a forgotten civilization that predated New Albion by millennia. As they walked, they began to hear a faint humming noise, growing louder with each step they took. Eventually, the passage opened up into a massive chamber, the walls lined with banks of glowing crystals that pulsed with energy. At the center of the room, a massive device, clearly the source of the humming noise, stood tall, its intricate clockwork workings spinning and whirring. Aetherium, or, glowing with an ethereal blue light, was fed into the machine, powering it and sustaining its mysterious energies. There it is, Finnian breathed, his eyes wide with wonder. An Aetherium-powered device. This is what Sterling's been after all along. And now we need to find a way to stop him, Evie said grimly, her gaze fixed on the machine. Before he uses it to destroy everything we hold dear. Finnian nodded in agreement, his glowing eyes studying the device intently. I've seen schematics of these machines before. They're designed to harness the power of Aetherium and focus it into a single, massive blast. It could reduce a city to rubble in an instant. Evie shuddered at the thought. Then we need to find a way to disrupt the power flow. Perhaps if we could shut off the Aetherium supply. Or sabotage the machine itself, Finnian suggested. But we'd have to move quickly. Every moment Sterling spends here, his automatons are running loose in the city, causing chaos and death. As they discussed their options, they heard footsteps echoing through the chamber. They exchanged worried glances, realizing that their conversation had been overheard. Moments later, Sterling emerged from the shadows, his automatons flanking him on either side. His eyes gleamed with madness as he surveyed the chamber and the device. "Ah, you've found my little project," he said, his voice dripping with malice. "I was beginning to wonder if you'd make it this far. But it doesn't matter now. There's no stopping me." Evie and Finnian exchanged a knowing glance. They knew they had to act fast, before it was too late. But how? They needed a plan. A distraction. Something that would give them the edge they needed to stop Sterling and save the city. As they considered their options, Evie noticed something peculiar about the chamber. The banks of crystals lining the walls were not uniform. Some were larger than others, and they seemed to pulse with a different rhythm. Perhaps they could use that to their advantage. "Sterling," she said, trying to buy time, "you're insane if you think you can control something like that." She gestured toward the device. "You'll destroy everything you've ever loved, including yourself." Sterling laughed maniacally, his automatons mimicking him on either side. "You foolish girl. You have no idea what you're talking about. This device is my salvation. My ticket to eternal glory. And nothing will stop me now." He gestured grandly toward the device, the Aetherium crystals glowing with ethereal light. "Watch and be amazed." With a deafening whir, he threw a lever, sending a torrent of Aetherium ore into the machine. Immediately, the chamber was filled with a blinding blue light, and the air itself seemed to hum with energy. The walls of the chamber began to tremble, and Evie and Finnian exchanged worried glances. They knew they had to act now. Evie focused her attention on the banks of crystals, searching for the one that seemed larger and more powerful than the rest. As the machine reached its peak, she dashed forward and yanked the crystal from its housing, tearing it free with a shower of sparks. The chamber went dark, the humming noise fading away to silence. The automatons froze in place, their clockwork hearts no longer powered by the Aetherium energy. Finnian quickly moved to disable the machine, cutting the flow of Aetherium to its core. As the device grew quiet, they turned back to face Sterling, who stood motionless, his eyes wide with shock and disbelief. "It's over, Sterling," Evie said, her voice steady despite the pounding of her heart. "You can't control it anymore. Give up now, and maybe we can still save you." Sterling's face contorted into a mask of rage, and he lunged at them, his automatons moving once again. But they were no match for Evie and Finnian, who had worked together to defeat the machine. In a furious battle, they managed to subdue Sterling. As they led their defeated foe away from the chamber, Finnian glanced back at the Aetherium-powered device, now silent and harmless. "That was closer than I'd like," he said, his voice shaking with exhaustion. But we did it. We saved the city, Evie. Evie nodded, her heart still racing from the tension of their battle. Yes, we did. And we couldn't have done it without each other. I'm so glad we found each other, Finnian. She placed a hand on his shoulder, feeling a warmth spread through her at their shared victory. Their victory celebration was short-lived, however, as they were immediately met by a throng of officials and journalists eager for details of their heroic exploits. They were hailed as champions, saviors of the city. But as they were ushered away to give statements and answer questions, Evie couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. As the celebratory cheers washed over them, Evie couldn't shake the disquiet gnawing at her gut. Sure, they were hailed as heroes, their faces plastered across every newspaper in New Albion. But the weight of their discovery, the raw power of Aetherium, felt heavy in their hands. Finnian, ever the optimist, beamed beside her, but a flicker of doubt clouded his usually bright eyes. We did it, Evie, he said, squeezing her shoulder. We saved the city. But at what cost? She murmured, her voice lost in the celebratory din. This Aetherium, it's unlike anything we've ever seen. Who knows what power it holds, or who might try to exploit it? Finnian's smile faltered. We can't let that happen, he said, his voice firm. We'll figure it out. Together. Their respite was short-lived. Their days were filled with endless interviews, government inquiries, and a constant feeling of being watched. The city council, now wary of the power they wielded, formed a committee to study the Aetherium device, a thinly veiled attempt to control it. Evie and Finnian, ever the outsiders, were excluded. One blustery night, a cloaked figure slipped into Finnian's workshop. It was Anya, a former colleague of Finnian's father, her face etched with worry. They're planning to use the Aetherium, Evie, she whispered. Not for the good of the city, but to crush the rebel factions in the underbelly. A cold dread settled over Evie. The very future they fought for was about to be extinguished. They had to act, and fast. Anya, a master tinkerer herself, revealed a hidden compartment within the device, a failsafe built in. With a combination of Evie's agility and Finnian's technical expertise, they could overload the machine, rendering it inert. But it was a one-way trip. The night of the city's grand celebration, a night meant to solidify the council's control, Evie and Finnian slipped into the heavily guarded chamber. Anya, disguised as a security guard, created a diversion. With pounding hearts, they reached the device. Evie, tears stinging her eyes, glanced at Finnian. There was no turning back. For a better future, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Finnian nodded grimly. Together, they activated the failsafe. The chamber pulsed with blinding light before plunging into darkness. The cheers from outside turned into a cacophony of confusion. They had done it. The Aetherium was no more. News of the accident spread like wildfire. Evie and Finnian, branded as saboteurs, were forced to flee into the underbelly, the very people they had saved now their only allies. Anya, her cover blown, joined them. But amidst the chaos, a seed of hope bloomed. The rebellion, emboldened by their actions, rose up. The fight for a better New Albion, a fight fueled by ideals, not a mysterious power source, had just begun. As for the true nature of Aetherium? It remained a mystery, a whispered legend carried on the wind. But for Evie and Finnian, one thing was certain. The power to change the world resided not in a machine, but in the hearts of those who dared to fight for it. Their story, far from over, became the spark that ignited a revolution, a testament to the enduring human spirit in the face of oppression. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please subscribe to stay updated with our latest stories, give us a like if you want to see more, and drop a comment below to let us know your thoughts.